Marklin Trainman here. In this video, I'm going to show you how I'm going to redo this train station that I built years ago before I ever did really any weathering, and weather this station as well as fix it up. And for those of you who've been in model railroading for a while, you'll know that sometimes glue doesn't hold over time. So I mean, this gutter's loose. There's lots of loose pieces on this. A few pieces are missing. There's a little chimney that's missing here, but I have it. And there's some a finial here, but I have two larger finials I'm going to use instead of that smaller one. Let me show you what I have and how I built this. So one thing I did was I kept the roofs so they could be removable, which I'm really glad I did. So I can take this roof off. I'm going to put it behind here. This whole section of roofing comes off next. Actually, sorry, this one does. I'm going to take this one off first. And then finally, this piece of roof. This piece of roof actually is pretty sound. Very little repair on this. This is very well in there. Put it down over here. Inside, I have lots of parts for station things. Not all of them go to this station, but the important one, of course, is that chimney, and then some finials. One of the things that will add a lot of realism to this station, besides weathering it, will be to make it a little more functional, a little more realistic. I'm going to remove this sconce light here, and I'm going to put on an actual working one. So that means I'm going to have to take this off and drill a hole. Alright, so I've touched up some of the glue around the edges and fixed up the station pretty good with that. I really didn't like this line here where the seam was, so I used JB Well, a 2-part compound, and then I gooped that on there, filled in the crack, and then I used this and brushed it along. It's dry now. I can sand it, and I'm going to repaint the whole base anyway. So hopefully you won't even see that seam once I'm done. I also got the light installed. So I'm going to go ahead and start sanding this now. Alright, so I sanded it down with a couple grits of sandpaper, a more coarse one, and then I have a little piece here of a very fine, they call it wet dry sandpaper. I used that too, and I even used a real fine steel wool on it after that. There's a bump here, but that's normal in cement, enough to be perfectly flat, and I don't really feel much when it goes into the where the patch goes over into the existing area. So I don't think this is really going to show when I paint it. Next I'm going to begin figuring out the colors to weather the stucco, the plaster walls, and I'm going to work in here because there's a textured wall inside of here that's going to be covered up, and I'm going to work with that to test using a different amount of black and white and see what I can come up with. I might try a wash also, so we'll see. Alright, so I used a combination of half raw umber, half burnt umber to do the tops. See, that top is done, that top is not. So that's for the wood section. I've now begun working on the platform, and as you can see, that seam is pretty much gone. I need to put another coat on it, and I'm still working with my first coat back and behind there. But it's coming. Alright, so here's the finished product. I ended up doing a red with, I believe it was burnt umber on for the roof. I repainted the whole roof. Got a nice look to it. I ended up only doing the stucco in this section over here, which is where there was some glue staining that had turned yellow, which was good to be able to get rid of. I decided not to do the rest of it because of all the detail work with the windows, and just it would be too time consuming. I got the light in, and I painted the concrete area in a gray form, and as you can see, this is where that crack was. It's gone, and it looks really good. I also painted with a red and black combination these bottom little pieces because I got some gray paint on them, so I repainted them. Here it is at night.